Another video, Israel. Getting right into it, giving all praises to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bashim Rakakadash Barakatah Yahweh Barakatah Yahushai, double honors to the Apostle, Elder Bishop, Great Millstone. My salutation to the brothers teaching word for the hopeful elect, soon to be elect, most high will to the hopeful stand elect, shalom and blessings. Men, women, and children, we almost out of here. It's going down in Babylon town. A fairly quick video. I'm trying to be edifying as I can and, fairly quick. But it's videos that have gone out by the Apostle, Elder Bishops, over and over again about this, the wheat and the tares. And, you can also go to Apostle Ramla. He did a video 6 years ago, but, they did upgrade videos. I mean, visiting that same breakdown recently also. I mean, we continue to circulate with these subject matters so Israel can understand. But it's called the wheat and the tares. And like we always say, be greatly edified when subscribing to Apostle, Elders, Bishops, Apostle Ramla, GMS Info Doc, and Channel 12, the wheat and the tares. And, basically, as he was explaining, that you got some people that look like Israel that are not, and you got some people that look like Edomites are not. Edomites, so-called white people, Jake, so-called black, Latino, Native Americans. You got them that their line doesn't go back to Jake, but they look like Jake, and vice versa. I'm just, pulling these up because I'm use them as an example. And two women now, they're both light-skinned women. I don't want to play the color factor in this, but they're both light-skinned women, both popular celebrities. One, I believe, is a tear. One of them, believe, is an Israelite. Is an Israelite. But the usual scriptures, about the wheat and the tares, you can find that. And Matthew 13 and 36, I'll just start, at the beginning. I mean, with these four verses. Then Yahushua sent the multitude away and went into the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. And it's going to let you know what the field is. He answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, like it says. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. And you know what it says about the children of the kingdom. They should be counted for the seed. It even says Yahushai, a seed of David. But the tares are the children of the wicked one. So during the diaspora and the scattering, even the grape that the so-called white man did among our people created tares, as well as these other nations, the seed is of the father. And it tells you that plenty of times, especially in the Old Testament, the house of their fathers, the pedigree of their fathers, the lineage, the bloodline, Abraham's seed, to Abraham and his seed forever, like Mary was talking about. The enemy that sold them is the devil, which is the so-called white man. The harvest is the end of the world, and the reapers are the angels. So they're going to separate. And we are the messengers. We're the prophets. We're angels in the physical form, to where we're presenting this word, because this word, and it's spiritual. It's all spiritual, but the dynamics of the flesh plays out according to the spirit. Just like Satan, the so-called white people is the physical counterpart of Satan. So, it even says not to give our sons into their sons in the Testament. Give our sons, and it all through the scriptures. Give your sons. It says give it. Through it talks about choosing a woman of our own nation, and don't marry these other women's of the women nation, mean to intertwine with them to follow their customs and their gods. But you can have them as concubines. Give your sons. Let me see if I can pop it up right quick. Yeah. Ezra 9 and 12, it says, now therefore give not your daughters unto their sons, neither take their daughters unto your sons, nor seek the peace of their wealth forever, that ye may be strong and eat the good of the land and leave it for an inheritance to your children forever. Your children, an inheritance. Inheritance is of your own people, your own father, and and it's easy for the foodies Americans because they grew up in a world of diversity where everybody could do anything, and everybody's, this is the United States. It's not a particular nation of people. It's not one nation. That's why they let anybody over here. They let, the East Indians come over here, the Chinese come over here, anybody, and be a part of this American cesspool. This American, what's another word for it, man? But, and if you understand the sowing of seeds is, you sow on in the earth. You put the seed in the earth and it grows a plant. Grows into a plant, whatever, a tree. It talks about how the Most High planted Adam in the east of the garden. He came from the ground, but it also says in the scripture that the Most High separated the sons of Adam. So we all came from the ground, but we're different people. We're different nations. So, like I said, China, you could look it up yourself. They got a race code. Like you have to, a blood line code of some sort. I forget what they actually call it. The Germans, they had bloodline laws. It was basically the Nuremberg laws that they didn't want their people, their seed to mix with Jake seed. They called them Rhineland bastards. They called them, what do you call it? What's that other word? They call them bastards, man. You'd be considered like an outcast. Now, how would they know? Well, they probably did a lot of it based on skin color, but features too. But, features can be deceptive. It's not, according, you can have a Jake with European features, but they still Jake. Now, I looked up this dude, like he's a East African, I think. But, I don't think he's Jake at all. I mean, just by his aura, and it looks like it might be a woman. It's probably a man. But but the Most High is definitely, I'm pretty sure, not. Well, we're gonna have different bodies when we get caught up into the chariots. But he's not. He's not the aura of the Most High. He's not a representation of the Most High. It talks about mannerism when it talks about Esau and Jacob, what they would be doing and how they would be acting and what they would be eating. Esau, he sold his birthright for a morsel of meat. That's what these so-called Christians got to understand, that it's not the Most High that's based into flesh. It's these people. But the Most High has to communicate through us somehow. He sent his son down in the flesh. He got to communicate with us. So he communicate by the orchestration of his work with people. Jay talking about, or people on earth talking about, well, how would God be? Why would he have all this physical set up, the laws of Moses and all that? Why would he do that? Sacrifice of blood? I don't know what kind of God that is. We the ones that's into the flesh like that, or we're in flesh, so he had to have a law and a disciplinary way to go about living in the flesh. Because the flesh is, all it wants to do is fleshly things, man. But you gotta, direct that. Look, these people, I guarantee you, is not gonna be called on the ship. You say, well, who are you to judge, man? It said you should know a man by the way he dresses, his gait, the way he walks and talks. Y'all act like mannerisms it doesn't indicate what a person is. Just like that Cat Williams thing. If you're not a police officer but you're wearing a uniform, somebody say police officer, and then you don't, you just be like, I'm not a police. Well, you dress like one. Same thing with these women. I'm not a whore, but you're dressing like a whore. So I'm going to take you as a whore until you prove otherwise. But in any case, nobody goes out there butt naked and shit because they know it's a shame. Even though you got new beaches in the world, it's still considered inappropriate and what do you call it, indecent exposure. So, that's the same thing with anything. When you recognize something, you see it and it's off, or it's not, doesn't look like what you used to or what your customs are, then you're gonna have to question it. And then, but let me get to this. Now, Tracey Ellis Ross, she's a pretty woman. You're gonna, but her father's is a Ashkenazi. He's a so-called Jew. That's her father. Her mother is Diana Ross. And I think I actually asked that question. His name is Ellis Silberstein. That's a definitely rat name. And it said that let me see, you gotta go. It just gave me that he's Jewish. As far as the ethnicity. She's mixed, see, and Ashkenazi Jewish. So they would call her mixed, but she's not really mixed per se according to the scriptures. She's what her father is. And I believe she is because I've been watching her and she doesn't have the Israelite spirit, man. It's a certain spirit that comes with being an Israelite. Flavor, the way you act, the way you respond to things, or some people be overdoing it because they trying to, or, do too much. You can't catch a beat. It's some jakes that can't dance, but they can learn to dance. Some of the greatest dancers got taught by, other professional dancers. But those are some of the things that may indicate that you're not an Israelite. But those are more of the more simple things. But it's according really to the spirit, and that plays a part of it. The mannerisms and the way you act and respond, and your calling of which So, and she looks more like she looks like her father and her mother, but she looks like another type of Diana Ross. She'll be a great concubine. She would basically be kind of like a Herodian. They look like they Negroes, but they're not. Now I compared her with Karen Parson of the Fresh Prince show. She's a pretty ass woman. I think she's prettier than Tracey Ellis Ross, but that's her as a kid. That's her mother, big afro, earrings, and her father is also would be considered a so-called white man. That's him. But he's of Irish and what else they say? I think they said Irish slash Italian descent, I think. And look, look at it. He looks like Jay. He's cool, got shades on. And like I said, you know, that's taking it for face value, and it says don't look like outwardly appearance, but that's a start. That's definitely a start. But this is her when she got older. Pretty woman. But I've watched her on Fresh Prince, even though she plays a ditzy, black rich girl, you could still see the Israelite in her, man. You could still see that, man. And it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like night and day with her and Tracey Ellis Ross. But that's what we mean when we say, it doesn't matter what the outwardly appearance looks like. Now that was a role that she did play. I don't know how close that was to her real life. She said it really wasn't. She said she, more was like, broke. She wasn't the dissy girl that actually got everything she wanted. But, and this is a show that people have been watching over years, and even with Tracey Ellis Ross playing on the show, what is the show called? Girlfriends, I think it is. She played with 3 other black females. And she talks about it. Hillary Banks, gay rumors, Tupac, Will Smith, and colorism. They always talk about that colorism, especially if you so-called you mixed or you look mixed. They'll say, and you got those 2 parent variations of one being black and one being white. So they'll ask you that you go. They did the same thing with Mariah Carey. She has a black father and a white mother. But she's definitely an Israelite, So things we, like it's almost like somebody playing basketball and they say, well, I'm a basketball player, I'm a basketball player. That's what I do. And, they brag and shit and they say all this, but when they get on the court, they play a whole game and they don't make any shots. Then you're gonna be like, this dude lying. He said, no, man, for real, it was just a bad game. You're like, nah, ain't no way you could play a whole game and you just scored 2 points, but you a basketball player. So that's almost saying like you're an Israelite, but you don't have any of these Israelite attributes. You don't go under the curses. You never experienced racism. You never, your father, you're rich. Your father doesn't live in the ghettos and stuff like that. Because we came down low. And even if you're a Jake that does well, you could still be under the curses. You can have a good job and everything, live in a decent neighborhood and everything, but you still experience those curses. But those are, I would say those are stronger indications. But we know that the outwardly appearance is not the be all to confirming that you're Jake. But there is, like I said, there's those pointers that, like, yeah, these are people. Like I said, the term Jew means the dweller of the ghettos. So if you don't see no so-called white people in the ghetto, you be like, these are not, well, and you be like, they're not the real Jews. Or you don't see them under the curse, you like, they're not the real Jews. And it's simple because it even talks about our women in Isaiah 3 that our women be under the curses. And if they're women, if you're a woman and you're not under those curses, I have never experienced any of those curses. Even in Deuteronomy 28:15 on down, you got to question yourself like, damn, Never had a problem. I'm rich, and my, So going back, and like I said, like I could tell, like out here with where I live, it's a lot of Elamites. It's a lot of different. It's like 3 or 4 variations of different people of different nations, like Elam, and which is the East Indians, and the Africans, and they, you could tell, man, that their aura, that they dislike you, or they just got a whole different aura about them, man. They don't talk to Negroes. People, when Africans come over here, they don't go to the ghettos, man. They don't go fuck with Jake. And it's no coincidence that the ones that people think that are Africans that come over here and hook up with Jake with music and all that, they always from West Africa, man. Always. Godfrey's from West Africa. Who is that? Michael Blackson is from West Africa. I think even Akon is from West Africa. So that tells you something, man. So it's almost like I said, going back to the proof is in the pudding. It doesn't have to be no documentation for confirmation when it comes to you being an Israelite. And then if you, sometimes when we come into the faith and understand that we Israelites, be like, that's why I was trying to find an answer to why I was always this and broken, and I could never, and like, damn, we those people. So it fits you. The language fits you. You know when you go to somebody's house, you don't feel, you go to a strange house, you don't feel at home, man. You go to Edomite's house, the dog is at the table, the big ass dog is going through the house in the bed and all that. You be like, ugh, I got to get out of here, man. Jake don't live like that. Now Jake can, be off on his lifestyle. He ain't up to par. He's chilling, smoking weed, and the house is look crazy. But these are the more extreme things, of what Esau does as a regular customs or a regular household lifestyle, a family lifestyle, is not fitting for Jake. It's not fitting for Jake. So going back, so the wheats are the Israelites, the tares are those that were sowed among. And I looked up that word sow is scattered seed. It also says metaphoric of proverbial sayings. But that's literally, because that's all it talks about in the scripture is seed, man. And they, I don't know how the Christians bypass that, but that's all they talk about.
4687, Spyro.
And that's all they talk about. It's all they talk about is seed. Let me see how many times seed shows up in the Bible. I bet it's maxed out. Well, occurs 280 times, and that's Old Testament and the New Testament. Let's see. Let's get one from the New Testament and see what it says. Of whom, Hebrews 11:18, of whom it was said that in Isaac shall thy seed be called. And you can look up the word seed, let you know it ain't talking about no metaphoric sperma, man. That's sperm from a man's loins. What are y'all talking about, man?
Strong's G.
Gonna talk about it's metaphoric. Sperma. Seed from which a plant germinates, your germ. The grain or kernel, which contains in itself the germ of the future plant. The product of this semen, seed, children, offspring, progeny. It says a family, tribe. So you got to understand what tribe you come from. But there's 12 tribes within Israel. So what are they? They're a nation of people. So if you're from a tribe of a people, then you're from a tribe of a nation. So you would say, well, you know, I'm from the tribe of Benjamin, Levi, whatever, Ephraim, and you know, but I'm of the nation of Israel. You can't say that in America. Yeah, I'm a black man, you know, and I guess you know, my people from Detroit, my people from, you know, Illinois, my people from, you know what I'm saying? That's all. That's not, Detroit is not a nation. Detroit is, you know, Chicago is not a nation. You know, California, New York, they're not nations, man. So what happens when you really want to do and you know, try to study and find out what nation you're from, what nation of people you're from? Because when it comes to nation against nation and there's war and you got to choose a side, you be like, well, I got to choose my own. Where is my nation at? You know, it's like a basketball team, you know, playing, and they have a basketball team from every state, and it's like, damn, this is big playoffs. All these teams are winning, and you want your, you know, you want your team to win. You're not gonna be on a team and of the Lakers, and then but you want uh, the Spurs to win, man. They gonna kick you out of the team. Oh, you might even have a brother that play on the Spurs team, when you put in that work and competitive work for your own team, you're gonna be like, that's not really your brother when it comes to competitive. But I'm just using that as an example for sports. But this is really a real life thing when it comes to nations and come to seed line. That's why Moses did that. He slew an Egyptian of what the Egyptian was doing to his brother, an Israelite, a fellow Israelite. That wasn't his biological brother. It was his fellow Israelite himself. Paul said it, Romans, for I wish I was accursed for my brethren, for my people, my kinsmen, my brethren, which are Israelites. Plain, I think that's Romans 9. Plain, man. I don't know. See, and that's why the Most High is going to manifest this to be real, because the Christians always, the so-called Christian, American Christian, they always want to, everything is spiritual. Nobody knows anything. It's just, you know, everything be found out in the heavens when at the end of the world, when we get to, you know, nobody, they always say that's, who are you to interpret the Bible? That's the wrong interpretation. Nobody knows the truth. Nobody knows what color, you know, the Son of God was. They use Jesus. They're going off. Nobody knows what he looked like. Well, okay, we're going to see, because they were saying the same thing about the father of Yahushua, and he said, well, you seen me, you seen the Father. We don't have to go no more. I don't have to prove out documents of what my father looked like in heaven. I look like my Father. And then we saying the same thing about, we look like Yahushua, all the brethren. No matter what you feel like he looked like or he wasn't. And, you know, they talking about, well, why you use that? Y'all using different pictures of what Yahushua looked like. Because he looked like, we look like him. We look like each other, man. So they ain't going off. But I'm just saying, going back, you'll know, you know, just like it said, you'll know yourselves, you know, I mean, if that's the case, we'll be like, well, nobody can say they're Israelites. These small hats over there in Israel, they can't say they're Israelites. Nobody knows. How can we know? They don't have no documentation either. Show just because you were born in Israel, that doesn't mean shit. People were born over here and they got parents they come from the loins of their parents that were born out of the country. So which are you? You're American, or you're a UKan, or you're a or you're British? Because your parents are from Britain, but you were born in America. For yourselves know how you are to, I think, and I'll close out with that. And it says, we have an unction to know all things. I don't know. Let's see. In the land, you will know yourselves. I forgot how it's exactly worded. Ah, man. If I know that, but because it's stiff-necked people. Oh, okay. Remember that. Yeah, Baruch 2:30. For I knew that they would not hear me because it is a stiff-necked people, but in the land of their captivity they shall remember themselves, man. So if we didn't remember that we as Israelites, why would the Most High try to stir up our remembrance to remember that we are Israelites? You know, if it's not important, or, you know, anybody, any nation can make it, well, why is he waking up the Israelites? And he's separating us from the heathen and these other nations of people, because they are enemies. Esau being the main enemy, so-called white man. And that's what's happening, and that's why things are getting crazy, because we're slowly, you know, that separation is being more known now. And for here, it's just going to rip apart. It's just going to, the tares are going to be torn apart. And it says the tares are going to gather the wheat, you know, and you know, at the end, after the reapers, the angels, the tares are going to be burnt up. Because like the Apostle Ramla was saying, you know, the tares, he was breaking it down in the video, the tares look like the wheat. They look the same. And he showed a picture, but I can show a picture right quick. Tares and wheats. And just in a picture form. Okay. So, you know, so you could have a Israelite that looked like an Edomite, and an Edomite that looked like that is an Israelite, and the Most High is going to determine that. But, you know, so but if your line goes back to Israel, you're an Israelite, period. No matter how far back, because they be like, it's been thousands, so what? We reincarnated anyway. So our bloodline, when we come back in the seed of our fathers, from the loins of our fathers that were from the beginning. It even says the prophets, they were from the beginning of the world. How they going to be from the beginning? They died back then, because they're back again. So anyway, I hope it was that fun. Till next video. Shalom.